When we were watching the UFC 261, an old familiar face was in the crowd.
Surprisingly happy as well. You don't really see Nick Diaz smiling so much.
Yeah, because normally, him and the UFC do not have a good run together. And I know he's got an even worse run with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. For those of you who don't know, Nick Diaz was the fighter who got banned for a few years and fined a massive amount of money. I can't remember the amount, but it was because of the use of marijuana in his system, which then again we've talked about on this podcast before.
The suspension got reduced considerably.
Yes, because he appealed it. But since then, he hasn't fought. Now, if you can just look up, when was the last time Nick Diaz fought? It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Been a while.
2014?
Yeah.
2015? Something like that?
7 years. He hasn't fought in 7 years.
Let me check.
I'm pretty sure his last fight was against Anderson Silva. Quite positive it was Anderson Silva. Anyway, so the point, he was in the crowd for UFC 261, and Dana said, oh yeah, he is looking for a fight. So really we were trying to figure out who. Now, here's
2015.
2015.
Against Anderson Silva, got overturned. And prior to that, he has 2 losses, George St. Pierre and Carlos Condit. Now, look, I want him to come back. Yeah. I think he looks incredible. I think the sad thing about Nick Diaz is when he was in his prime and he had his best days, that's when his fighting career kind of stopped. He kind of lost the best years of his career because he never came back to fighting following the suspension, right? And I think it left a really sour taste in his mouth. Already had issues with the UFC anyway and with USADA. But USADA attempted to use Nick Diaz kind of as an example, a big marker. Hey, we don't enjoy that people are taking the mick out of our guidelines, our legislation, our rules, by being positive to marijuana and not think that they can scrape by. But now that marijuana is not an issue anymore, now it's completely different. So, look, I understand that Diaz was very disappointed by USADA's decision, but the issue was he was talking a lot about, coming back, and he never did. Now, I don't know. I think Nick Diaz has done the right thing. Nate's already being active. He's fighting. Now we've got Nick, and Nick is actually came to Dana and asked for a fight. Yeah. Now, Nick's management has actually said, no, we don't want the Hamzat Chimaev fight because he has not done enough to actually deserve that fight. But I do know there are 2 people that come to mind that I think would be great, right? The first one that comes to mind is someone who also wants to come back. And this would be an amazing thing for nostalgia is an English commentator named Dan Hardy. He's been asking for the Nick Diaz fight for quite a fair bit, and I want to see that fight back. Now, the only issue with that fight occurring is
he's not on good terms right now with the UFC. He's been fired from the UFC actually.
Yes, he's been fired from he actually is doing work for One Championship at the moment. Yeah. He's doing breakdowns for that as well as he's still working with BT Sport, but there's been issues with what happens with that. There was a disagreement with a fellow worker, but doesn't matter. What we're trying to say is Dan Hardy has been openly saying he wants to fight again. He really wants to have a comeback fight, and the only roadblock in his way is he has been diagnosed with, I believe it's with an arrhythmia with his heart, which is what took him out of fighting, right? But he's now been cleared by a doctor, and that doctor said, look, I will sign off for you. You're able to fight. And Dan Hardy's been left with a little bit of resistance. Well, if not resistance, a little bit of suspicious silence. The second person that comes to mind, Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, former champion, number 14 in the division. This would be a rematch because Robbie actually lost to Nick back at UFC 47.
Yeah, so it's a rematch in the making.
Yes, and I want to check actually how long ago was UFC 47. That was back in 2004. Yeah. Ooh. That is a long time ago.
That's a long time. Well, it's because he needs to fight someone of that same area, same caliber, perhaps similar age.
Imagine having a rematch 17 years later. Yeah. That's insane.
Well, that's the thing. Not even that, but that was the situation of Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. That was a rematch quite a few
11 years.
11 years in the making. So why not? and it was a classic too. Unfortunately, what happened to Chris Weidman. But one rematch, sorry, not rematch, but one fight I would like to see for Nick Diaz would probably be against Jorge Masvidal. Now, because Jorge Masvidal's fought Nate, you know, and then Nick could just come in and be like, "Hey, you fought my little brother. Let's get the other Diaz," you know, and that would be a good fight to sell because, you know, based on where they're both from, you know, they have that similar background. You know, they're considered like the gangsters of the division, and why not? Because
I do understand that. It's just
shit out of that.
it's just like it doesn't leave a good taste for the Diaz like kind of army, because Nick has been out of the sport for a really long period of time. That's 6 years, right? The sport is so fast.
Yeah.
Growing and evolving. If he jumps back in to fight a top 5 fighter like Jorge, who just fought for the title, yes, he got knocked out, but there was a lot of people that believed that he had, you know, the ability to knock out Usman at some point in the cage. For him to come back 6 years later and to fight, I believe Jorge's number 3 in the rankings.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the right move, to be honest. I can see him fighting someone in the top 15 or the top 10, but top 5 is it's just dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's just really dangerous. Sorry, Jorge's number 5 because he's dropped in the rankings. Yeah. But excited that Nick's coming back, but I want Nick to fight someone who's a little bit lower in the rankings, I think. Still a big name. And I would love to see a rematch with Robbie Lawler, 17 years in the making. Robbie's on a 4-fight losing streak, and it's a good way for them to actually see if Robbie can still hang with people like Nick.
Yeah.
So